Don't suppose the Crown's Guard is still active?
I wouldn't count on it. Not with the Marshal out here.
I wonder how things are in the city.
There should be reports before long.
Yeah, something this big can't go ignored.
And what about us? What do we do?
We make for Hammerhead now, and figure the rest out later. Got a message from my sister. She's with refugees bound for Lestalem.
Well, at least Iris is okay.
Yeah, doesn't sound like everyone else was so lucky though.
We best make haste. Noct won't be dead forever.
No going back. Only ways forward.
No going back. Let's go.
Crystal and the King's Ring. What they've been after all along.
So all talk of peace was merely a pretext.
They played my father for a fool.
Don't kid yourself. Reggie wasn't born yesterday. Lucius got dealt a losing hand, and your old man played it the best he could. He saw this coming a mile away, and he wasn't gonna go down without a fight. In the end, though, well, it just wasn't enough. You need something else, you talk to Cor. I can't even remember the last time I saw Reggie. Feels like a lifetime ago.
Welcome back to part 5 of Final Fantasy 15. Today we're going to try and find Cor the Immortal so we can get some advice on where to go next with our quest. As we go to leave after our chats with Cid, Cor will tell us where he is. He's in the northwest at the outpost, as he'll just tell us. You can't miss it, so don't worry about it. But just before we head off, there is a couple side quests that we can now access here that I want to see if we can do. Yeah, there's one over there, and there's one, I believe, behind us back with Cid. Yeah, there is. As I've mentioned before, this is all done in post, so it is trying to work out what I've done and where I went afterwards. But this lance we picked up when we was heading towards the side to see what had happened to Insomnia at the end of chapter 1. It has a little plus sign next to the icon of the weapon to let you know it can be upgraded.
I can mod it for you.
And as Cid will say, if you can get the resources, Cid will modify it and essentially just make a stronger version of that weapon.
The parts, I can do the work for you.
It's also how you're getting what the game considers the ultimate weapon for Noctis. If you can fully upgrade the engine blade, his default weapon, it will become Ultimate Blade. Oh, you've also got to unequip it to do it. Okay, there we go. Come on, Cid. Thank you.
Y'all just sit tight while I do my tinkering.
It's not quite the most powerful weapon though, Ultimate Blade. It's like the ultimate weapon in terms of being the best all-rounder, but in terms of most damage, there's even a weapon in the same class of it that we might not even get in this playthrough because the requirements to get it.
Fixing to upgrade?
It depends how much patience I have. I might do it in a live stream when we get to him much later on, but I don't know. We'll see how we go when we get to it. But when you talk to Cid again, he will give you the quest line for the next stuff. So if you find the right ingredients, take it back to him, and you'll get your upgraded weapon, which is neat. There's also a high potion in Cid's thing there, if you noticed. But anyway, the other side quest. I know what the other side quest is. We can go do that now. I wasn't sure what it was, but I remember what it is now because we do actually go and do it now. Because he's going to go ask you to get resources and materials essentially, and then bring it back to him, and he will reward you for it, and he will also give you new recipes and whatnot for Ignis. So it's always worth doing anyway.
Said I should give you all some work, no matter what kind.
Yeah, see,
Boys can't go home for the time being.
that's the thing that I'm going to bring up as something that I found kind of weird. Noctis' entire kingdom has fallen, and his father is dead, and yet they're so quick to just sort of make a light-hearted joke about it. Like, it's literally that evening that they drove back after finding out everything for certain. And then they just go back and it's like, well, not if you're not being able to return home in a while. Like, you don't need to make that joke yet. Give it time for it to, you know, settle on Noxus's mind, but whatever.
Come on back.
If you click on the side here, if you have the ingredients, you'll be able to give them straight to him. Thankfully, we already got them from earlier, so we can just give them straight to him, like that.
Yeah, well, I guess I went a little soft.
Whilst we're waiting for this, sorry for the parts taking so long to come out. I will keep saying it the whole way through, just so then you guys know, just in case you don't watch them all, or you only watch bits and pieces, or whatever. But there is no schedule with the Final Fantasy 15 parts, at all. I record them when I have time, I edit them when I have time, and I upload it when I have time. They're not working off any pattern or sequence or whatnot. It's a background project, essentially. All the regular uploads, like with Devil May Cry and whatnot, is still something that I work on in the foreground. It's something I try to keep up on all the time. Yeah, hitches usually like to come along the way and make issues and whatnot, but I still try and keep relatively on board with it. This, on the other hand, is just something in the background I work on when I have time. And I also know I mentioned it last part, but those new expansions that are coming out near the end of this year and going into 2019, all of those, I do have a plan of how I'm going to handle them if they come out during the playthrough. And it's as simple as this. I will do it afterwards. It's as simple as that. The new expansions that they're coming out year 2018, 2019, I will not bother let's playing or trying to work out where it goes in the sequence or whatnot. I will just do everything I want to do in the game and then afterwards go back and do them. Because I already have my structure written out of how I want to handle it, and I'd rather stick with that just for now.
Master Cid.
Yeah, I'll take that with us. Even though I'm saving and camping here, the usual signal at the end of the part, we're only 8 minutes in, so of course I don't count it. I count the next day as well. But when you go to finish, you'll get a call from a certain dickhead.
You recognize mine, don't you?
Yeah, hey Dino.
Right, the jeweler.
Yes, right. That guy.
I've been worried about how you guys are doing. How's about you drop by Golden and mingle for a bit?
I'm not going down the Golden Key to talk to Dino yet. That can wait. Later on, like, come chapter 3 or chapter 4, I've got a plan to just binge out a lot of side quests to get a lot of them out of the way. I won't do every single one of them, because I've mentioned before I don't want to become over leveled. I'm deliberately trying to keep myself at a steady somewhat level to keep the challenge for my sake. I don't want to reach the final boss and be so overpowered it's pointless, it's just there. Let's put some Final Fantasy VIII music. To be fair, I never gave Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack any time of day up until one of the YouTubers I watched did a full breakdown of the entire game, like thoughts and feelings, and I called them Clement. And Clement's a good YouTuber if you guys might watch. I know I've dropped a lot of YouTubers that are far more successful than me, and if I say successful, I don't do this for any kind of profit, but I mean as in like far more subscribers, far more content, far more professional, if you can put it that way. I mentioned some call me Johnny quite a bit, but Clement, he's a Canadian YouTuber. He's got like 100,000 odd subs, something like that, and he's like slowly but surely doing these really long videos about every single main entry in the Final Fantasy franchise. And the last one he did was Final Fantasy VIII, and I watched it, and he really highlighted just how bloody badass his soundtrack is. Like, I knew the battle themes were good because I've got some of them on my phone to listen to when I'm walking to work and whatnot. Especially the Extreme. I love the pacing of the Extreme. I kind of prefer it over some of the other Final Fantasy themes that get a lot more credit. But this opening theme, I never gave it the time of day, and it's actually genuinely an amazing piece. I'm half tempted to shut up and just let it play, but we're so close to it. Actually, no, I will shut up just for a bit until we reach the end of our destination, because we're close anyway. course, as soon as it gets to the best bit, we're here, so I have to cut it short. But seriously, if you get a chance, search up Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack.
And this must be the outpost.
Or to be fair, any of the first 10 Final Fantasy soundtracks are pretty good, but 8's caught me, when I actually went back and listened to it, it actually caught me by surprise just how good 8's soundtrack is. They really wanted to make an impression after the sheer overwhelming success of Final Fantasy VII. Which, to be fair, 7 deserves every amount of success it made. Even if it's not my favourite Final Fantasy, it doesn't change what it did for the industry. What it did for the JRPG genre. It made a lot of the rules and established a lot of the things that are still present today. And I respect that for what it is.
I'm glad you're safe.
Monica.
And this is Monica, a character that really doesn't mean that much in the main story, but if you've played Comrades, you know very well. And thankfully, he also... Monica, her, female... Monica will mention to us that Iris got out safe, and Iris is Gladio's sister. We'll meet her much later on, but she's one of my favourite characters in this game. She's a very cool character. She's probably not my absolute favourite. That goes to someone else, but she's definitely up there. On the radio, you'll get the broadcast of everyone talking about the death of Luna Freya, even though we saw on the opening cutscene of this part she's not dead. Similar to Noctis, it was a lie. It was just spread that everyone died there, yada yada. But if you head over here, Dave's here again, and take a shot.
Howdy, boys.
You've jumped when I meant to press X.
Across another tag out there in the field.
Dave will mention that there's more tags nearby, and we'll do that later. Because right now, we need to head off and see what Cor wants from us. Because he is up here, he's actually quite close when you look at the objective marker. Because we're about to get introduced to something new, and it's something that is actually a really genuine concept, and I'm actually quite happy with what they did with it. Yeah, there's always the room to add more, but this is their first real attempt with a lot of this stuff, so I was cool with how it was. Also, there's a warning, be careful advancing forward, there are quite a bit of enemies. But I've let the game, I don't want to talk about it yet because I want the game to bring it up first, and then I'll go full wild and talk about it. But I like it, I really do like it. I enjoy how everything they do with it works differently depending on how you use it, depending on what you use from it. It'll be a lot clearer once I get to it. It's just, I started the conversation for that a lot sooner than I didn't want to. Also, these are dagger quills, these guys are dickheads. But I say that they're not that bad. Any enemy that flies, you can't really use heavy weapons. Heavy weapons, the only real attacks you have with them are slamming down. Your best bet, almightily, would be a javelin or a ranged weapon. Because everything else will just barely not cut it, it'll feel like. Especially heavy weaponry, for God's sake, when I can speak. Heavy weaponry will always seem like you're just not getting enough out of it. It's not doing what it should do. But that's enough, let's head up.
Drew him to the royal tomb.
A morbid curiosity for the late kings of Lucis.
Only one way to find out.
As we head towards the royal tombs. Oh, and there's more of these guys as well. Alright, let's go. I've mentioned before about not wanting to be over leveled, but you must have already seen it, how high of a level we're getting already. Neat! Thanks! You must have already seen how high of a level we're already getting, so it is going to be pretty hard to keep it on control. But if I go above, I think, level 40, I will drop side quests and just focus on the main plot for the rest of the game just to get it done. But I don't know yet, we'll see how we go. Thankfully, because of character swap, we can use Noctis' buddy here, Prompto. And Prompto is actually really good with ranged combat, you just have to be good at aiming, which apparently I am not. Thanks, past me. There we go. And we got some dagger quill. Breasts. The writing's quite small in the editing software, so I could hardly read it. But we get our first royal tomb, and we get introduced to our new character.
Marshal.
At last, Your Highness.
Yeah. Wanna tell me what I'm here for?
The power of kings passed from the old to the new through the bonding of souls. One such soul lies before you. To claim your forebear's power is your birthright and duty as king.
My duty as king of what?
Now is not the time to question your calling. A king is sworn to protect his people.
And yet he chose to protect only one prince. Was that his calling? Forsake the masses to spare his own son?
How long will you remain the protected? The king entrusted the role of protector to you.
Entrusted it to me. Then why didn't he tell me that? Why did he stand there smiling as I left? Why? Why did he lie to me?
That day, he didn't want you to remember him as the king. In what time you had left, he wanted to be your father. He always had faith in you, that when the time came, you would ascend for the sake of your people.
Guess he left me no choice.
And now we have been introduced to royal arms. The way they work is every time you do damage to an enemy, they take a small chunk of your health as well. So be careful of that, but they do a lot of damage, they're very powerful, and every single royal arm in the game have something unique to them other than them being a different weapon. Like some will affect your warp strikes in a very different way, some of them you can use as a shield and actually then use it as cover, things like that. I won't spoil all of them, but they are very cool. There's 13 in the game. Whether or not I get all 13 by the end of the game completely once again depends on the level, and I'm still undecided one, because one of the ones you have to get, the recommended level is significantly higher than the final boss. And so I'm still quite undecided if I want to do that or wait till post game. But at the same time I want it to make sense of the plot that Nox gets them all throughout his journey. So I don't know, I'll work it out when I get to it, but I might get most of them, but like leave one or two of the ones that will make the final boss too easy if I get to a good enough level to get through them, or if I'm not a good enough level but somehow I'll get through them anyway. The amount of experience I'll get will probably be high enough. But Cor here will explain that there are many around the map. Not every single one of them can be found on the world map alone. A number of them, I think 5 or 6 of them, are plot only. The other ones you have to find. In fact, the very last one you can't get until right near the end of the game.
One bit, Marshal.
Still got an edge at any rate.
But the good news is we have a 5th team member temporarily. For this section and this section alone, Cor will join you, and as you can tell by his health alone, he's a far higher level than you will be right now. If you're somehow a higher level than him at this point, you need to stop grinding, man. It's been too much, you need to stop. Either that or you're on New Game Plus, because I've never actually tried New Game Plus to see what carries over and what doesn't.
Long years ago, we waged a fierce battle here against the Empire.
Yeah, which is why it's all in ruins.
To ruin. And after that, the Empire moved in like it owned the place.
I'm going to go out my way to fight them all. I know I do, because they're fun fights and I like the music. In episode to Sky, like before then, this theme was actually considered the nighttime battle theme. It just played in every nighttime conflict. But now they've changed it and just made it the Magitech battle theme. It's not the only Magitech battle theme, but it's the main one. I think it's called Veiled in Black, and it's one of my favourite normal battle themes in this game. Unfortunately, I've been spoiled now of the soundtracks in this game, so I can only say it's one of my favourite normal battle themes. DLCs and the other things, some of the tracks in those DLCs and other events in the game are just too good. Especially stuff added in the Royal Edition. I know we're a long way off, but when we get to the Royal Edition stuff, there's some really impressive pieces of music in there.
A Magitech armor.
Comrades has got another good piece as well, but that's because it's composed by the franchise legend Uematsu, and I don't think he's ever disappointed with the music piece he's done. Everyone likes to remember him from the first 10 Final Fantasy games, and rightly so, he does very well. Although it's not my favourite soundtrack he's ever done, my favourite soundtrack he's ever done is Lost Odyssey. The soundtrack for Lost Odyssey, even if it's a bit of a forgotten gem, I wish more people gave it a shot, because it's it's a good game. It's simple, but it's a good game, but the soundtrack is a whole new world. I still to this day have not heard a soundtrack quite as much of a spectacle as that. It's not the best soundtrack ever, but it's the one that really catches you. No soundtrack's quite caught my attention the way that did. But anyway, back to the game. Cor does have also its own ability you can use if you have enough of the technique bar. But like I said, he's only a temporary party member. He's not a permanent addition, which is a shame because I'd love to have Cor as a permanent addition to this party. But no, we only get guest members, unfortunately. And now at this point, I know what happens. Because, like I said, this is all pre-recorded. At this point, I get lost. The objective is literally over that rock. It's to my left. It's immediately to my left. But instead, I go and check out this statue, which isn't important to us until we get all 13 of the Royal Arms. When you get all 13, come back to this and you'll get a neat reward. And now I'm going to go back the other way and not look through the gap. Because I got lost. So I'm going to cut until I get back there. There, I just saved 3 minutes of me wandering around and killing a few enemies. But over here, there's a new weapon for Prompto. Well, the game had a bit of slowdown there. But I say that you could use them as well, obviously. But the reason why I say for Prompto is because I've never in my life committed to the machine weaponry in this game. They're just not my thing. And we get a new key though, so if we find the other tombs, the royal tombs, we can open them and get straight into them. We don't have to worry about finding Cor and him opening it for us.
Find out what they're up to. But you should focus on your own task.
Yeah, thanks, Cor. But we have our first proper dungeon now, which is neat.
You take care.
And that is something I will compliment in this game. The dungeons. It's not like, yeah, other open world games have done them better, and you'll hear me say this a lot, but this is, like I said, their first attempt at this sort of thing, so I'll take it for what it is. But some of these dungeons I genuinely really enjoyed exploring. There's a lot to them. The musical pieces are cool, the atmospheric design of them, the way they handle it, it's just, they're very enjoyable dungeons. They're some of the best parts of the game when you're not in combat.
So it would appear.
But there's a generator over here you can find that will light up the place, but only for a while. I don't know if it's context sensitive or time limit based, but it will give out after a while. And you'll be left back in darkness. And when the lights go off, more enemies will start to run in. That's how it works. When you're in darkness, enemies will come at you. When you're in the light, you're fine. So when the lights are on, you'll be fine.
Yeah, long overdue for some TLC.
Sure, hope it holds up.
I'm sure it will hold up, Prompto. Don't you worry.
What was that?
Kick the can, Prompto. Calm down.
You're killing me here, big guy. Are you? If it's all the same to you guys.
Because the camera pulled up too much there, so you couldn't see it, but it was just rubble fell down. Oh, an extra health boost. Yeah, sure, I'll take that.
I'd rather not get buried alive.
Oh, don't worry, Prompto. Stop being over dramatic. I'm trying to remember which way is the wrong way, because like in any open world game, well, not even any open world game, in anything where you have to explore and there's multiple paths, it's usually good to go the wrong way first, just because it'll be loot.
I can feel eyes on us.
Well, calm down, Prompto.
We turn our backs. Bam!
Quit being a wuss.
I like the dungeon music as well. This whole soundtrack, like, Yoku did such a good job with this.
Did you see that? Something
I didn't see anything.
What was it?
Hello? Anybody home? I'm coming in.
Such a wuss. Door's locked as well.
Locked. Total shocker.
Actually, I think it is context sensitive, because I think it's when the lights go off that all these doors start opening so you can get around.
Souls just sort of remained behind.
Nope.
What I'm actually going to do, just to highlight how it is, when it comes up to it, there's a piano piece in this track, and I'm a huge sucker for pianos, and I want you guys to hear it because I love it.
Hey, wait.
What?
Need to brace for this. Okay, I'm gonna count to 3. On 3, you open the door. Got it? Alright. Okay. Here I go.
You can blame my love for piano in music to 4th generation of Pokemon. The 4th generation of Pokemon, Diamond, Pearl and Platinum, was when I became a Pokemon fan. It's when I really got into the series, and it's still my favourite generation of the bunch. But that soundtrack put the piano as a priority with almost all of it, and I just loved it. The soundtrack in the 4th generation is so nostalgic and beautiful that I've never really let go of that love for piano ever since. If there's a good piano piece in a track, I will make time to listen to it and admire what it is, because they're just so good. The piano is such an underrated instrument in this, and when it's used properly, it's so good. Oh, the light's out. Alright, Nate, we're gonna have some enemies.
Let's be done with this riffraff.
What we got? Oh yeah, the goblins. Ow! Alright, didn't realise the ceiling was gonna fall in on us. Fucking hell. I'm getting bullied by the ceiling. Yeah, if you want to get me up after getting bullied by the ceiling, god damn. The goblins aren't a threat in the slightest, it's just unfortunate positioning then. See, they're dead already. I just got bullied at the start there. Oh, another Oracle Ascension coin, neat. If you're wondering what the Ascension coins will actually do, there's a shop much later on in the game that will give you stuff for the coins. So they're worth collecting because it's a neat shop. It's like how, like, it's the easiest way to just explain it. It's like, you know, in some games you have your main currency and then you have this sub currency that's much rarer and harder to get, but the shops that use it are usually much better items. It's that. It's literally that. Oh, an elixir just gives it to us. Cheers. The map's not the most helpful for finding your way forward, but it's definitely very helpful for finding your way back, because it highlights everywhere you go. It doesn't like fill out, there's no big map that you can find that fills it all out for you, but it will fill in everywhere you go. Ow. Is that it? Oh, that's all of them. Oh, there's another generator in here. Get some light back for a while. To be fair, Kingdom Hearts was another game that had good piano pieces. They weren't as commonplace as 4th gen of Pokemon, because the 4th gen of Pokemon, that was really what kicked it off, because the piano pieces in them are untouchable, in my opinion at least. But I remember Kingdom Hearts having some really good piano pieces I really loved as well. Speaking of which, I'm not sure if I'd ever want to Let's Play a Kingdom Hearts game, because I've got them all in the PS4 collection, and I'm a huge fan of the series. I have been for a really long time. I still remember Kingdom Hearts 2 coming out and being excited for that. But I don't know if I'd ever Let's Play them, because they're so big games and there's so much I'd want to cover, and if I wanted to cover them, I'd want to do them right. And not only that, if I wanted to cover a Kingdom Hearts game, I'd want someone who's just that little bit more of an expert at it than me to come along with me, and that being Reese. You've seen me do videos with him every so often, and I've mentioned him a bunch, but he's the Kingdom Hearts guy out of me and my group of friends. He understands the world of Kingdom Hearts, and he's more stoked for KH3 than anyone I know. And he's been waiting very patiently for quite a number of years now. He's been waiting about as patiently and as long as I've been waiting for DMC5.
Ooh, this looks promising.
An ominous sort of way. Stay sharp.
But if I was to do a Kingdom Hearts game, I'd want him to tag along. And if I was to do a Kingdom Hearts game, I'd want to start on the one I enjoy the most, not Kingdom Hearts 1. Which I know is a bit of a shit show and a bit of a shame, because I know a lot of people hold Kingdom Hearts 1 very close to them. But truth of the matter is, I've only ever played and beaten Kingdom Hearts 1 once. And I never went back to it afterwards, because I preferred 2 so much. After I finished with 1, Chain of Memories was alright, but I don't know if I'd ever go through it again. Reverse Rebirth everyone forgets about, and it's just the game again, just with Riku. But KH2 really sparked my ultimate love affair with the series. Because as much as I enjoyed the first game, I never really saw myself as going back to it, same with Chain of Memories, but 2, absolutely adored it, and so I'd want to start with 2, but I know it'd be quite confusing for anyone who hasn't played them to jump in and just see Kingdom Hearts 2 and not know it, so I'll give it time and see what guys think, and if I can sort something out with Reese, then definitely I'll say if I can get him on board, because I think he'd enjoy. He might bicker at me a little bit, and I'm sure he'd be annoyed because I won't play it on critical. I'd play it on proud because I prefer it on proud. I think the ways they make it harder for critical just feels a bit arbitrary for me, like, or less health or neat. I'd rather just play on proud and get done with it. Because proud still has the difficulty. Yeah, critical does a lot of other things to make it harder, but I'd rather just crack on with proud personally. But I'll see what happens and just see how it goes. And besides, I've already got this to worry about. This is a big enough project in itself. Getting the time to do another one, plus have a guest with it consistently throughout. That's not something that can be easily sorted out. I'm not like some can we join the Super Gaming Bros where you can just invite everyone to his house the same day every week to do it all. It doesn't work like that. Reese has his own life that he's busy with. I have my own life that I'm busy with. We don't always just get to meet whenever. But we'll see. If there's ever something I can sort out, I'm sure Reese will be down with it. But anyway, now enough about that. We are at the end of the dungeon. When you get over here, here's the Royal Team of the Conqueror to get our second Royal Arm. So my throat's going now. Oh, and speaking of like Let's Plays and stuff like that, the second half of Devil May Cry 2, Lucia's story, all of that is recorded. I just need to edit it and I can start throwing it out to you guys. So give me another couple of days or so to start cracking onto that, because it was draining as hell. And I need the motivation to start going back through all the footage and making sure everything's alright and editing what needs to be edited, things like that, because I really start to crash and burn in Lucia's story. You'll start to see it as it goes, but in Dante's story I at least tried to hold on to my optimism as I went through, but going to Lucia's story you really start to see that degrade and break down. And I'm very well aware of it, and I can only apologise to people the few of you that actually enjoy Devil May Cry 2 for what it is, but it really starts to knock the crap out of me, because I'm just burnt out with it. It's such a bad game in my opinion, and Lucia's story is just so much worse than I could ever imagine it being. When you go to leave, it says, do you want to quick travel to the entrance? I'm going to say no, because now the game will give you the option to go through here, which it doesn't let you to until after you get the second Royal Arm. There's nothing of interest right here, right now, that you can access, but there is a locked door that I want to highlight so you need to remember for later. This.
What's this?
This safe-like looking door that you physically cannot open right now. And Ignis is on the right track. There's more dangerous things inside them. It's not that it's trying to stop us getting in, it's stopping things get out.
Or like a magical key.
And Prompto gives us a random Kingdom Hearts room. See, it all relates. It all relates. I don't just jabber on about Kingdom Hearts for no reason. Why would I? And what I realise here is that they don't let you do the return to entrance in this section of the map. You have to leave this section and then try and bring it up and it will let you, which is kind of weird. See? You have to move away before it lets you do it. But I cut out the load time to save you guys the trouble. And when we get out, we get a phone call from Cor. And Cor makes another poor taste joke about death. Like, come on, it's been a day, guys. But Cor will give us a new objective now. To the west of where we are, there's a base that's sort of been set up, blocking the road by the Magitech troops and whatnot. We're going to go in there and infiltrate and fuck it up. And it's worth doing, because doing it will give you access to the rest of the open world. We've only been in the lead region. Doing this will open up the Duscae region, the biggest of the 3 regions of the map. The third and final region we also can't get into yet, but that's not until a little bit later on.
Come to think of it,
But this new objective, the Declaration of War,
Hard to miss an ominous thing like
will at the end of it give us access into Duscae.
Can we really do this?
And Duscae will probably be where the major majority of this playthrough will be spent, because there's a lot to do in Duscae. So it's the biggest of the 3 regions by a long stretch. Not to say that we're done with Lead, there's still stuff to do in Lead that we'll be coming back to, and there's certainly a lot of stuff to do in Klein, I believe it is the name of the last area, but we will be in Duscae a lot longer than the other 2. As we sprint back to get out of here. Oh, and that's something I couldn't keep on track of my stamina as it seems, because I'm going to jump like a moron over there. The general setup of weapons you see me have now is what I usually have for most of the game. I have a broadsword on top, a heavy weapon on my left, and a royal arm on bottom, and then whatever I have on right is whatever I feel like usually. Later on in the game we'll get a certain weapon that I will instead replace on right, and I'll move the royal arm to the right on the D-pad instead. But that's not until much later in the game, so this is what I'll be sticking with for now. But we're nearly back now, as it's now turned night time, so all the lights go on. Alright. Get a quick stamina boost.
Never get here.
I am famished.
Yeah. Let's go talk to Monica first, and then I think we'll call it a part because this video is long enough.
Advised me of the plan. We found a back door into the Imperial base. I'll mark the route on your map.
Oh, very handy. Thanks, Monica. So we can get round straight into the back of them and get a sneak attack, hopefully. Because there is a sneak kill mechanic in this game, but it's just almost never used. But I think we're going to camp and start calling that apart. Let's see what we can get at the camp.
I'm all sticky and gross.
Yeah, we have been in the cave. I'm not really surprised you're sticky and gross. Oh, we didn't even let a full day pass. I would have thought a full day would have passed how long we was in there, but whatever. What can Iggy make for us? That could be quite nice. That'd be quite nice. And it's got a love icon for Prompto, which means when you get a meal that's loved by a character, once they've had it, until the buff ends, they will much more often get the critical bonus with their techniques. I don't know if it's guaranteed or just a far increase. That's why I'm gonna say much, just in case. It's never failed me when I've had it on, but I don't know for a fact off the top of my head whether it is guaranteed. Of course, we get level 13 already. And Iggy's cooking leveled up, so he gets a new recipe, which is neat. Most of Iggy's level ups are new recipes. I think most, if not all of them are.
Cor.
Yeah, we'll have a picture of Cor. That's a better one though, we'll take that one. That one's got good lighting, I guess.
Now that's what I call a good shot.
Yeah, I'll take that. This one's a bit goofy. That one's fighting our little mini boss we had at the end, which I completely talked over by the way, but that was our first boss, that big spider thing at the end of it. That's our first proper boss in the game, and I just completely talked over it and forgot about it. Because it's not that hard to be fair, so don't worry too much about it. Just keep on top of it, but be wary that it does have a charge attack and you'll be fine. But now the game will tell us about cooking their favourite foods more often. Yeah, see, the game's not even clear about it. But that'll do. So next time we'll head off to fight the Imperial.